All right, thanks anybody who's joined in. I'm going to be doing some live stream editing of phpstan-drupal as part of some of the open source funds I've raised for this. The big thing going on is the fact that it needs to have support for Drupal 9 and PHP 8, and also the fact that Travis CI no longer supports open source projects and it leverages Travis CI testing. So let's see. I'm going to go check out the work I've done previously. I got somewhat far before, so we'll get started there. All right. So PHP Storm still indexing because it's been a bit since I've opened this up. I just haven't had time to really work on phpstan-drupal. In the past 6 months since I really worked on it, I left my job, started my own company, and it just requires a lot of maintenance because it's kind of delicate. It works between phpstan, which is a static code analyzer, and then also Drupal, which Drupal's gone through its 8 to 9 upgrade and is now preparing for Drupal 10. And phpstan assumes that all of your code will be autoloadable via Composer, and Drupal doesn't work like that. So there's just been a fun mix of things to have to balance while working on it, and just required too much time with a few too many things going on. But luckily, Florida Drupal Camp has graciously sponsored 20 hours of my time to get this rolled out, which is great. And I want to also use that time to do some live development. You know, it was paid for via open source funds, so I want to work on it in the open as well as much as I can. All right, got the main branch. So I've got a GitHub Actions branch opened. See where I left this. Okay, so one thing I want to do is add testing annotations. Okay, that's the way I was going to go through instead of a test suite. So the one problem is that right now all of the tests, so if I were to go through the tests, we have different tests that make sure it works with Drupal, that it can bootstrap Drupal, for example. And the problem is that once we add Drupal 9, things like this integration and deprecation test won't work because we're on Drupal 9. So the things were removed. So to get testing to work, we need to say that certain tests only work on certain versions of Drupal. So I'm going to refresh this branch. We're going to rebase it off of master. Let's see, already rebased. Oh, that's because before this had a conflict. That conflict was resolved since working on this. So let's do we'll do a force push. Actions, rerun that. And now I'm going to try and just re-upload this to my brain. So we have GitHub Workflows. In this, we have a matrix where we want to test 7.4, Drupal 8.9 there. We're going to include 7.2 for 8.9 and 8.0 for Drupal 9 because PHP 8 is not supported by 8.9. We set up PHP with our extensions. We install our dependencies. Downgrade. Why do we downgrade? Oh, so here it downgrades some of our dependencies based on the Drupal version, which doesn't seem like a good idea. So drush there. So one thing I think we'll have to do is remove we're gonna have to remove Drupal from actually being a dependency because I don't know if this downgrade is actually working. One thing, shoot, man, this is just I think this also broke because PHP unit, it didn't work with PHP unit 9. So it just gets weird supporting 8. So we go through to here, we set up Drupal, we create a project. I figure we need to spin that out into its own workflow as well. So let's see. Split out workflow. One should be for phpcs, phpstan, and php unit, and one for Drupal integrations. Okay. So I'm going to work on this spin out. And we'll see what the latest test run is. Thanks for tuning in for those who just got in. Again, this is a live stream where I'm going to be working on phpstan-drupal, the extension for phpstan to do static analysis of PHP code. In this case, it's the extension to make it work for Drupal, because Drupal does not dump its kernel or autoloader. It has some dynamic magic when it comes to that. So this adds things that you normally would need a installed Drupal site for to work. On Composer, plug in API 2. This doesn't have Composer. Installers 2. Okay, so that's one bug. All right. So we're going to commit, add Composer to support for Composer installers. And one thing I just thought about, I may have made a mistake by going whole hog and trying to just get onto GitHub Actions with support for Drupal 9 and PHP 8 all in one workflow, but we'll see. All right, so I'm going to split these up because right now, like I said, this is doing all the things at once. It's installing a Drupal site and then requiring phpstan-drupal into it, and then it's running our test. We should split everything after here into its own workflow. First, I want to make sure that we get this running. Why isn't 2 the, oh, is 2 not the right version? Is it 10? One 1.9. What did I have this at? There's no lock file. This one's gonna run. I'm just gonna run Composer update because everything's weird. What in the world? Why is it? Oh, shoot. Remove that conflict. That conflict lasted over from earlier before we were able to fix a bug in PHP parser that caused a conflict with phpstan. All right. So let's see here. We don't want to commit that. There's no actual changes there. Just do a really bad commit message. Scar Warren, thanks for joining in. Okay. Like, I wish there was an easier way to run actions locally. And the worst part about having to support Drupal 9 and 10, or 8, 9, and eventually 10, is just there's no easy way to test this locally. I could set up like a Docker runner, but like I really don't want to do that. And I know you can run actions locally, but I've had issues with that sometimes. I might have to give it another try. Oh, it's Steven. Hey. So while that's running, hopefully we get it to spin out, and I'm going to finally copy my notes from, December 13th. So I tried working on this before the holiday break, and it just was too much. So we've got this jobs test, and then we'll call this strategy. The one bummer about GitHub Actions is that you can't use YAML anchor points. So you have to like copy paste everything. I'm used to using Circle CI a lot, which lets you write custom commands, which are like actions. So I could just write a bunch of actions for myself, I guess, but that just seems a little silly. So let's do this here. I'm going to copy this, and we're going to call it build integration. Let's see, okay. And we want the same matrix. This is going to be huge. So we set up Drupal. Put it in here. Actually, and we want to do no dev. We don't need any dev dependencies when running in here, because this will be for phpstan's dev dependencies. So we're going to require phpstan-drupal into the Drupal site and analyze a few things. Let's see where this died. Oh. Yeah. So we're gonna have to remove. You're gonna have to remove the dependencies, because this just it doesn't work. It's gonna be hard to do. So what this was saying right here, so let me make sure I explain this decently, is in our test, we're saying that we'll allow a higher order version of Drupal, and we're trying to downgrade PHP unit and Drupal core recommended, because when we have a higher version of PHP unit, Drupal, it doesn't analyze correctly and it can break. What it's saying is it won't downgrade there, because Drush 10 requires consolidation robo, and Drush is locked at 10.4. So that, I guess we could run that. We can try to downgrade Drush as well. And it's conflicting on Symfony YAML. So I guess we could try to downgrade Drush as well in this process. Let's see. So when are we doing the downgrade? So we're doing here. We would also need to Drush 9, which should fix composer requires. Okay, that's not relevant, but it breaks. I think it's because Drupal core recommended also uses Symfony YAML, and it conflicts on here. I don't know. I want to see if I can get. Let's see if I can try to run this locally with Docker, which I need to start Docker then. All right. I believe this is what it's called. So this tool called Act, that's not it. I can never remember the repo for it. Geez. See if I can get an actual link so I can share it out. And my mouse just died. I've had the worst luck with my Magic Mouse 1. It's about 6 years old, but it just keeps dying out, and I have a Logitech that should be in the mail today. So run GitHub Actions locally. There's a quirk though when using it with the setup PHP action. I want to make sure I handle that right. So we'll go here. We'll search for usage. I know the usage. There we go. Okay, so it's under local testing setup, Nectos Act. Okay, so if you're using GitHub Actions, I'll show this in the chat. You're able to run your GitHub workflows locally. It's really useful, but if you're using the PHP setup, you need to use this custom image. So what we'll do is I want to see if there's a way to default branch, detect event. I don't want to run the entire workflow. Workflows, I would have wanted a specific job. Let's see. We'll list the workflows. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So we list the workflows, path, run a job. Let's see. Let's run tests. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it's going to run all that entire matrix. So it is nice because it lets you run everything, but I've had issues before where it randomly broke, even with the right Docker image, specifically around this hosted tool cache. But maybe we'll get lucky here and it's going to run and I can get it to test a little bit faster. So as it's running, so that's broken. All right, hopefully we can get one of these to go. And one reason I don't want to drop Drupal 8 support for here is it would be really hard to backport improvements. And some people will have Drupal 8 for a while. And I believe Drupal 8 end of life is until next summer. No, let's get to the actual release cycle notes. Key dates. Drupal 8 end of life will be November 2021. So I want to support 8.9 until at least November, but if I drop support for Drupal 8, that's not fair to folks who are on commercial supported, like long-term support that need to have phpstan to do like deprecation analysis or code analysis when they're onboarding their customers. So I do want to keep support for Drupal 8 for quite some time instead of making a new branch and then dropping the support. So this is still running to set up the extensions. Since that's taking forever, one thing I think I'll do is I'm going to comment out 7.2 and 7.3. So we'll just run and PHP 8. We'll just thank you for the follow. So what we're going to do now, just to make this a little bit faster, to test Drupal 8 and Drupal 9 is just run on 7.4, 8.9, and 9.0 and try to speed this up, because then once we have that, I can do more version testing. Yeah, see here, let's see what happens when I kill that. I'll restart Docker. So let's reduce the testing matrix. And before I do commit that, let's also exclude here and 7.3. So the end goal will be is we're testing 7.4 against 8.9 and 9.0. Same here. I guess we don't need the tilde. We can do the upper arrow, caret, or however it's called. And so we're going to reduce the testing matrix and split out the workflows. Right, this looks... Okay. So push that. So one thing I wanted to show is when you are testing a Drupal module or extension, or anytime you're working with Composer in general and you need to acquire your own repository, you have to configure it as the first repository entry. So that's what's happening in here. So I'm doing composer config repositories 0 as a path to my current GitHub workspace. And then after it, I'm re-adding the Drupal.org packages endpoint, and then running composer require. One thing that I've wanted to do is turn this into a GitHub action. So if you are testing custom Drupal code, module, whatever on GitHub Actions, you could just do like, how do you do it? Uses mglom and / Drupal setup, and it will do composer create project with that Drupal version and add the module. So if you think that'd be useful, let me know. I'd add it. I know it'd be useful for myself right here, which I am. Well, so this runs. Let's see if I can get to all the actions. What I'm curious about is GitHub Actions, custom action within workflow, within repo. I want to know if you can define a custom action inside of your own repo. But I'm guessing you can't. Get started. Let's look at reference guide. Oh, geez. Managing work, creating actions. Creating a Docker container action. Create a Docker. Okay. You can't make it inside your own thing because you'd have to publish it on the marketplace. That's a bummer. I wish you could like define actions your own repo uses and then leverage them without having to publish them to the marketplace. But I'll save that for another day. That's something I work on. So, well, this is interesting. We've got a pass here. Let's just see what happened. So install dependencies to, I just realized with the build integration, we actually do not, sorry, one second. I want to make sure I do this right. So build integration, when we set up Drupal, we don't actually need to install dependencies because we're going to be requiring it, which will install the dependencies inside of Drupal. So that will make this about 9 seconds faster. So we're setting up Drupal. which is getting 9.0 or 8.9. It ran. Great, this passed. So Blazy has errors being reported, but nothing crashed. Somewhere I'd have to look up the issue, but I know it is. So the Blazy module, it gets added, I think, in here as part of the tests. Maybe not. Fixtures, modules, no. So the Blazy code has a if function. Oh, cannot redeclare token theme. So it has a test for token theme that if the function doesn't exist, because it's an optional dependency, define the token. And that was crashing builds because it didn't know that it was an optional dependency, and then it would analyze Blazy before token because B is before T. So this workflow ensures that if there's a function exists, it gets loaded correctly. I'll show you that fun little piece of code inside the autoloader. So I said that we do a bunch of custom stuff to mimic Drupal's autoloader. That's everything in this file. So as you can see here, we added a nice little statement just for Blazy test that says, load it last. Make sure that it's loaded last in the alphabetical sort, because by default, that's all Drupal loads modules is they're alphabetical. So this makes sure it's at the end. So that test passed. Let's look at the 9 output, because just because you get a green test does not mean that you have, things that actually passed. So just make sure. So it did install phpstan and all that from my local development. So here, when I did how we told Composer to look in the local path, it's installing it and it's symlinking it from the workspace. There's a way to tell, I believe you can configure it to not do a symlink, but to actually copy it as well. So let's see, it ran. Did it install Blazy? So it did. I didn't know Blazy was Drupal 9 ready. But it looks like everything ran as expected, which is great. But none of this is testing deprecations, though. But the main thing here is that nothing exploded when it was actually pointed at a Drupal site. So let's see why this exploded here. 7.4 PHP unit. Fatal error. Oh, joy. It crashed due to Drupal code itself. So this is why. In the previous code, sorry, let me go back. Let me find where I'm looking at here. So in here, we try to downgrade to PHP unit 7.5 because Drupal core is not compatible with it. And that's why we're getting an error here. So your fatal errors in your code also cause phpstan to have a fatal error as well. Now, downgrade dev dependencies. Because I changed this from a tilde to the arrow. So that's why that broke. So let's look at the 9 PHP unit. Test case setup must be compatible. So even that was not working. So we'll need to see. Sorry if you can hear my dogs in the background. Apparently somebody came over to go see the kids. So sorry as they go nuts for a bit. Okay. Let's see if I can find this. And 1 second. PHP unit 8 test breaking because of compatibility with setup. So this was fixed in Drupal 9, but probably did not get a backport to Drupal 8, which is why we're seeing an issue here. Let's see. So I'm confused. So install dependencies. Why? Because this is Drupal 9. So it should have had for 9.1, 9.1.5, and it's saying that it's still not compatible. So let's see. All right. I want to see what I have for. Want to make so 9.1.5 is installed here. So let's see what's going on with this class since we can actually check it out. So I'm going to copy this, and then the shortcut I always use in phpstorm is I double tap shift, which launches this explorer. Then I paste in the class name and lets me bring it here. So just to make sure it's the right space, unit test case in Drupal test, perfect. Let's see. So Symfony Bridge PHP. So, oh man, I wonder if that's part of it too, is we're not including core dev pinned. Which is where that's one problem. To explain that, what Drupal does is we've got our development repository, which is like the mono repo right here. And then it takes core and inside composer.json, if I can find it, it does a sub. When they publish this to packages, they actually do a subtree split. So as you see here, if I can get down to it, there's no required dev in here. Oh, so core, the Drupal /core has no dev dependencies. All the dev dependencies are in the root of the repo. Require dev. So there is a sub package that splits all these dependencies out. What we would need to do is require this as well. So let's see if I can do that. So we'll do composer require dev. We want, I'm just going to type it in here, core. So we want Drupal core dev. So you'll see there's dev and dev pinned. So dev is just an upper constraint, and pinned has the specific versions that are allowed. So we'll do 8.8 at alpha. So I'm pretty sure that's valid. And we'll say 9.0. And if you're curious about any of the hover, or when typing in the drop downs, that is phpstorm's built-in composer support. So when you have composer support enabled, it will show you the value version options that are available. And I think when you first sign it up, it checks if you want to read from remote repository URLs, such as the Drupal.org packages endpoint, because that can be a performance problem sometimes. But to help explain this difference, I just wanted to show it. So we have core dev and core dev pinned. So here is core dev, and it's all upper constraints, or I guess like minimums. So up arrow, blah blah blah. Here's what we'll accept, and then here it's specific versions that have been pinned. So when you're working on it, like this is the stable. These are the stable versions that can be used. So let's run composer update cross our fingers and see what happens. And hope that nothing goes explodey. And I guess one thing too is I just need to make sure I limit the PHP unit support in here to whatever is supported by Drupal core. So I want to look at core dev. So it does support 9. So I'm going to add that here as well. So if Drupal core supports, Drupal 8 supports 7 and 8. Drupal 9 supports 8 and 9. So I'm going to rerun it one more time just to see what happens after I added the 9 upper constraint. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Just the minimum, it allows a minimum of 7.5 or 8 or 9. Okay, so this ran. This is good. We'll run PHP unit locally just to see if anything broke in my tests. Well, besides the fact that we have Drupal 9 locally and the tests are against Drupal 8. I want to make sure I have Xdebug turned off too. The module's enabled, but it's off. Okay. Some things were skipped. I'm going to push this. We're going to fix that. We're going to add PHP unit dev, or sorry, core dev pinned to dev dependencies. Before I commit that though, we need to add this line to our downgrade statements. So we would do that here. We would say Drupal core dev and then matrix.drupal. Now I'll copy that into our other workflow where we run create project. Or, okay, we do it here. Okay, when we create the project, we do require dev pinned, but just not when it was downgrading before. All right. All right, so we push that. Need to see why my local has this still wrong. All right, refocus a bit here. So, okay, so now we have it where it's including dev pinned, because that was a thing that was broken here where it says, okay, that's right. I got to the unit test case and I saw we didn't have dev dependencies. So this expected deprecation trait was erroring, but this is still broken. And I think it's only broken on 7.4. So maybe that's why. We'll have to see. Okay, let's. So downgrade dependencies. On PHP unit 6.5. Oh, you've got to be. Let's look at package this again, core or Drupal core dev pinned. Let's look at 8.9.13. And we got PHP unit is 6.5. Holy cow. Okay. So maybe that's one reason that this is being a bit broken. So we need to support 6.5 as well. Again, see, I hope some of these intricacies show why maintaining this is kind of a sticky wicket, if you will. Like, it's just got little quirks here and there. We're now having to support installation between all these various versions of PHP unit to support Drupal 8. Okay. So we got the 6.5. I need to edit the workflows for this to be 6.5. I'm just going to take 6.5.14. I'll run that. Oh, locally this exploded. Okay, due to unit test case must be compatible with. All right, I'll have to figure that out. Let's change this to PHP unit 6.5 for 8.9. Push that. See how this goes. Like, I want to test it on 7.3, but now I'm nervous about adding it, and then what if something else breaks? Okay. No suggest is deprecated. So let's remove that. Okay, why did this fail now? All right, 8.9 failed. Downgrade dependencies. Core dev pinned required 6.5.14, but conflicts with your root requirement of 7.5. But I changed that. To allow 6. Oh no. No. Okay, that didn't get committed. Oh shoot, it didn't. Yep, I forgot to commit that. Darn it. Okay, let's see why 8.9.0 is dying, and it's this test case setup must be compatible. So I'm going to rerun this and call it fix downgrade. Dark mode. I hate dark mode, actually. Now, I say that because I was a dark mode user before, but funnily enough, I used dark mode for PHP only, but for IntelliJ regular for Rust, for Golang for IDE, for WebStorm, I used the light theme. Like I don't work well with the dark theme anymore. I did for a while, but it actually hurt my eyes more. Maybe it's because before I did it with, I used to work a lot without my glasses, and then once I started to wear my glasses, it was a lot easier on my eyes with the light. I am, what do you want to call it? I'm nearsighted, so I don't know, but I can't do a dark theme anymore. It wasn't working out. I tried also using like some of those like crazy colored themes like Synthwave and VS Code, and it was fun, but then I realized I was working too hard to read my code. All right, so here we go. Oh, shoot. All right, downgrade dead. Ah, yay. All right. So we were able to downgrade our dev dependencies. Woohoo. Wish there's a way to pop out the chat. So I usually use just OBS, but for Twitch, this is my first time using Twitch. I got Streamlabs OBS since it, is basically built for it's OBS built for going on Twitch, and there's no way to like put your chat out of OBS so that way you can like see it in your main monitor. When I've done the YouTube stuff, I hide like I add the chat to my screen share and then hide the actual chat behind it, so it's more easy for me to read the chat. Okay. Assert string contains string. That's in here. Oh, no, that's an UID finder test. Okay. I'm going to take a minute to collect myself. So now I'm getting all excited and hopping all over the place. So the dev dependencies are downloaded. Now let's look at Drupal integration test. So this is all code for this is something that can run on Drupal 9 and 8. And it basically ensures that we can read the Drupal site. Try to fix some of these code errors as we go so it stops complaining. Nope, don't want to run it. Don't want to run it. So where this broke is assert self-contained string. This replaced assert contains in PHP 8. So what we need to do is I want this to support all versions of PHP. So if method this, say this, so if the method exists, we run this, otherwise, else this assert contains. Let's just double check that assert contains if it is a string, is deprecated for Drupal 9, use assert contains string. Great. So that should fix that. Why is this commented out? We'll put that back. We'll use self just to get some of the squigglies put away. Why is this complaining? Call the function with this, and assert will always be true. Well, yeah, it'd be true in this case, but not always. So make a comment here to do, or not to do. Note this supports PHP Unit 6 backwards compatibility for Drupal 8.9. Well, I mean, I could do that, assert true, but I just like using the constraints. Like the string contains. Like I want to use the actual methods. Like I could use that. I mean, yeah, that's the better way to do it, but I like using the methods that exist. But that's probably less jankier than you're right. You're right. So assert not. Should actually be assert not false, because we don't want it to return false. So we want to say right, and I always have to haystack needle, so that's flip flopped. So the haystack is the message, the needle is the string. All right, thank you for the suggestion. Just that it makes it a lot more maintainable. Oh, here I even have something that says is D9. To do a check. What is this complaining about? Is always true. Well, it wouldn't be true in the long run. Comparison between -1 and 1 will always evaluate to true. What? Is that legitimate? That a strict comparison between -1 will always evaluate to true? Hold on. So we're going to do print -1 is not equal to 1, right? That's what it's saying. But isn't that what's expected? Like -1 is not equal to 1. So you want it to be true. I don't know. Okay. Ternary, yeah, that's fine. This is only broke on D9. Oh, this has some kind of breakage only in Drupal 9. Another to do. What is only broken? Thanks, old self. So that's one. Comments are great, but be explicit about things that are broken. Actually, I think it's just saying there's an extra error that's returned. So I don't need to necessarily document that. So we will try running this. So we will say cross PHP unit version fix for that. We'll commit it. Thanks for the suggestion, because that is a lot better than having random, like, does this method exist checks. So let's see, we still have the problem where unit test case, where this does not meet, or it doesn't have the void added to it. And supposedly that's fixed. Oh, wait. What in the world? Oh, no. One second. Does this test tools class writer mutate base? What in the world? Test tools, PHP unit compatibility. What file is that in? PHP unit 8. Class writer. However, if changes to PHP, this mutates test class from PHP unit to make it compatible with Drupal. Mutate test case code to make it compatible with Drupal 8 and 9 tests by implementing the void after it. Altered code. Simple. So, so it's this, the error is correct. It doesn't implement void, but inside of the register test namespaces, it mutates the base class. So this was added in, let's see when this was added. Get Drupal, we want to look at 9 core tests. Bootstrap, right? So we got line 157. This is that. Let's run a blame. And again, I don't like the word name, the blame, because we're not trying to blame anything. We're just trying to figure out what and when something happened. So this was a year ago. But again, a year ago, looking at Drupal 9 for this, it was all Drupal 8. So support PHP Unit 8. It's got a lot of stuff in there. Okay. So let's read this again. So it mutates it. So if the class exists already, altered file, so it finds the file. It finds the directory, altered code. Oh, wait, does this strip void from the file and then put it into site simple test? So simple test directory, if not, create the directory as needed. So what it looks like needs to happen is inside of, so this file gets included by, so for those who don't know how this works, inside extension.neon, we create a bootstrap file, and this bootstrap file is loaded by phpstan, and it's supposed to be used to set up auto loading that exists outside of Composer, which is everything inside of Drupal. So we come in here and it passes a container. This is a little script for like some type hinting. We define Drupal test child in site. It's not there. We have this code here because upgrade status actually runs it, and I think this fixed a bug in there. So we load the autoloader and we try to register it here. So we need to run this same code, but I need to figure out when we should run this code. So let's see here. This is a lie. So we're going to delete that. So require once test core bootstrap. So it got loaded. It technically gets required and loaded, but I wonder if it fails. So I'm bouncing on a little bit. So if class exists, so auto load false. So because we've already auto-loaded PHP unit, this doesn't run. Because the registration of tests is used test discovery, find all tests, find all class files. This gets used before anything's bootstrapped, I'm pretty sure. I'll go up the chain. Oh my goodness, come on. No, that's a test. Comment. Okay. So why don't we try this? We'll say oh man, I don't know. I don't know. Let's see, this aired in so what I want, let's see. So we find out where Drupal's located and we load Drupal autoloader. Because really this should belong if class exists, class writer, class, mutate base, this autoloader. Like this is where it should live. But we know it was causing a crash. Where was it causing the crash? Does it say, where was that test happening? Test loading service provider. Nope, that was somewhere else. Let's look at 9. 9 crashed when test deprecate. Nope. Extension suite auto loading. Okay, let's try to run this locally. And let's click play. There's no interpreter for the project. Apply. Let's run it and see if it explodes. Man, this is going to be a tricky one. So instead of fixing it, and I get why, like that's a really creative fix because it supports multiple versions of PHP unit. But now I don't know how I'm going to support this. So the first step is we're going to run it with xdebug. We're going to debug this and see if this gets hit at all. And the worst case scenario is I'm going to have to copy and paste this code. Symfony simple PHP unit, remove type hints. Okay, so it's inspired. Symfony did it too. Undefined variable absolute. No, why? What? Oh, apparently I had an old breakpoint in there, and that's what caused the crash. So while that runs, I'm going to look up this packagist simple PHP unit. Oh, okay. So let's see where this picked up at. So this ran inside PHP unit, inside the integration test. We hit the bootstrap. So the autoloader hit the bootstrap and the class writer, and the class already exists. So we need this to run before we need this to run before Composer even bootstraps and finds PHP unit. Altered file, so it finds the file, alters the code, and then it puts the content there and returns the file name. Okay. So that's too late in the process. So we don't need, well, I guess the good news is we don't need to call it. There's no use in calling it ourselves. See if I can find this Symfony. No. Okay. Now we got to get creative. We got to get really, 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 really creative. So this class writer needs to run before PHP unit has been loaded. So find file, autoload, it returns the string. I just don't get how file name, altered code. I just really don't understand how this makes it work. But we're going to create a new directory called simple test. We're going to make another get keep file. Only write when necessary. So if the file doesn't exist, create a directory, and then it includes the file. All right. We're gonna call this a. So we'll call this the. I don't even know. Let's try this. We'll call it name Drupal PHP unit hack.php. Handles class writer. So we'll do if class exists, class writer class. Let's find where this was used again. Test, autoloader. I mean, I guess, okay, I'll just do that. I said I'll do that, and then I didn't copy it. So we'll go in here. I'll say require. Oh, we need the Drupal autoloader though. Not. Oh man, we need the Drupal autoloader, not the one for PHP stan. No. Oh, this is going to be... This is hard because we need not only we don't need our autoloader. I think we need Drupal's at this point. So let's look at the, I want to see if test tools that's dynamically registered. That's not inside of here. Nope. So I think I have another idea of what we can do. So we have the autoloader. I'm going to close a few things out. And after we have the bootstrap, we need, what decides if this runs? That's the worst part, is I don't know when this thing actually, or why it's intended to run. I guess it just intends to run all the time. So let's copy this. So we're going to make a new function, this mutate test class for Drupal. Add method. So if I go back up to here, we should have the autoloader added as a, okay. So if we do this autoloader, find file, altered file, get the directory name. So we'll run through this part. We'll test this out. We'll change the path from assuming this part to this Drupal root. I'm pretty sure the root includes /web if it's that kind of setup, so we'll be okay there. So it'll be the doc root site simple test, and let's just see what happens. I guess we'll run this test. We'll do a debug. The only problem could be if this fails on some sites when trying to create the simple test directory. So it ran in here. I'm just going to drop a breakpoint there just in case. Okay, so altered file. That is the file, the directory, the altered code, simple test directory, test source fixtures, Drupal sites. Let's see if that looks right. Fixtures, Drupal sites. Yep. So file name, test case. Cannot declare class because the name is already in use. Yep. So this has to run before. This has to run before PHP unit is autoloaded, and I have no idea if we can control that. Let's see. Autoloader. So let's see. I'm going to just do PHP replace loaded class. redefine class methods or class. Sure. That's the run kit. Yeah, that's not what we want. Yeah, we don't want run kit. Auto load. Let's see. I just want to see if there's some way. I don't know how we could interject fast enough to be able to fix this. So that means it's always going to be broken on Drupal 8 because the class already exists and there's possibly no way to get it early enough. So we're going to go back to this idea of Drupal PHP unit hack. We don't care about where the code is. Like Drupal's just putting it there. We're just going to put it somewhere else. So there's a wrapper on the PHP unit binary. So yeah, it's breaking because I changed the file in execution and it was already loaded. So what I'm going to do is copy this out. And I'm going to paste it here. But I'm not going to make a directory. I'm just going to say file put contents file name. And I'm going to put it right in this directory here. So what we'll do is we're going to add auto load. We're going to add files. There we go. Files is an array. So it's an okay. Yeah, if it was altering like the PHP unit binary, I see where that was way harder than this. Like this is a really ingenious fix. Like I will give it up to everybody who has worked on the any of this like test compatibility code. Like phenomenal. Like there's been some crafty fixes, but it has made this part a bit hard. So I'm gonna delete this simple test folder, and we're gonna auto load this right here. And I don't know if this will work in the long run, but it'll work locally. So we're gonna do composer update. What is it? Dump to redump the autoloader. Nope. What is it? It's in there somewhere. Oh no, it's just dump autoloader or dump autoload. Okay. So let's see if this hack works. So the idea is that we've added it to the autoload files. And I'm hoping that the library name being mglommen is before PHP. So this gets us to trigger before PHP unit gets bootstrapped because that's the concept behind the class rewriter. So I'm going to run debug and we're going to, okay, cross our fingers. So altered file, shut down. Okay, I broke something immediately. What went wrong? What went wrong? Using this when not in an object. Yeah, that's why. So autoloader. That's the one problem is the autoloader. I wanted to know where I wanted to have the Drupal autoloader. So let's look at globals. Dump autoload files. That's not going to give us anything. So So this is where it's going to be a bit. No, oh wait, it won't be silly. Oh, yes it will. What if instead of in here, I wonder if it could actually go inside of this autoloader. So let's copy this. We'll move it out of here. This file is just going to be here and empty. Autoloads need, yes, to find the PHP file, it could be hard coded, but so we're in this problem where it's like when you work with a globally installed file. So the autoloader, is the autoloader in vendor autoload, or am I in the vendor directory? So it's could be near impossible to find. But one thing we're gonna do is we're gonna run xdebug and see what gets caught here. Again, though, this is gonna happen too late for our PHP unit test. So I'm just gonna stop it now because I know it won't work. So it needs to go into its own file, and we need to say autoloader equals null. So if file exists, and it's going to be a vendor, vendor autoload.php. That's why I didn't autocomplete. So we know that autoloader equals require vendor autoload.php. So if autoload equals null, we're just going to return, and it will die out to do, maybe throw error message. So we're going to start by just getting it to work locally for us. And then we're going to figure out how in the world to get it inside of, to work when running it inside as a dependency of Drupal. So the question, is running the test for this project supported when it is a dependency of something else? No, you can't run the test when it's a dependency of something else. So the problem is that when we run the PHP unit test, it's loading its own dependencies. That's why Drupal core actually gets installed as a test fixture. The problem is we need this to fix the test case code when doing analysis. Otherwise, every time somebody runs Drupal check or phpstan, it will die on this test case setup. I bet if we added that coverage, so let's add that coverage right now to kind of prove that it would break. So let's go to Github Workflows, and we're going to test. What is this file? Where's the file at? We're going to test core test unit case because we should be always writing tests. So let's commit this and we'll just see. Let's just remove that. This can get, well, I'll remove that later. Composer.json, no. So test that unit test case dies. So my fear is that no matter what, because when you run Drupal's test suite, it on demand creates that test case, but that test case doesn't exist when you're doing static analysis on your own. So we need to replicate that on demand class mutation. Otherwise, it will fail. So I have a feeling that this integration test will fail out. So let's see. So I was doing the debug here, and failed to require vendor autoload. Oh, whoops. So this failed. Oh, does not exist. Home runner Drupal core tests. What? Test unit test case does not exist. Installed, and it's installing core dev pinned. Is that not the file? Hold on. Not in that part. So in that workflow test, so in this one, in this workflow, one second, let me get. Whoa, why did it expand everything in core? Hold on. Oh, because it's in, I picked the layout. Oh, it's broken in layout builder too. Whoa, stop. PHP Storm, you're going nuts. So it's that test flow was the integration test, which ran composer create project. So it's actually, so this job is running like if you had phpstan-drupal as a dependency or pointed Drupal check at a Drupal code base. Oh, analyze web, because I forgot web slash. That's why. I forgot to give it the web directory. And this is going to be a merge squash pull request for sure, because this thing is coming up on way too many commits. So that's why I didn't need the fixtures directory, because it's analyzing a built composer project. So we're going to now look at the hack. I'm gonna run debug. So autoloader, great. We've got the class autoloader. So you know what? I don't like just is equal to null. So like if, so if not autoloader instance of class loader. Yeah, I prefer to have more explicit type checks because that makes you know exactly what's happening. So autoloader, find file. Let's run through. While that goes, I want to get back to there. So let's see if this saves the file. So it created the test case and it mutated the class and things are running okay. So maybe this is it. Maybe it just, we need this hack, but the big thing will be fixing it outside of there, outside of if we are a dependency. But this passed, so who knows? It's like this inspected it and it didn't fail, so I have no idea why that would happen. Let's look at this. Let's look at the actual test again. This test that's failing is when we do, is when we test the extension suite autoloading inside of Drupal integration test. Oh, so it's actually when test, like when scanning a test. Okay, so we need to refine. It's here. So before I just go and trust that it's working okay, I want to update the workflow. We're going to copy path from content root and we'll paste it after web because I know I got to remember the web part. So it's replace test fixtures Drupal with web. So we had errors when it actually analyzed a class that implemented unit test case. So let's see if this causes a failure again. Analyze test extending unit test case. If it doesn't, then great. Apparently it's only a problem in our own test, to which maybe we've got it fixed. I didn't commit to fix yet. Oh yeah, actually when I ran it locally, it looks like that autoload hack fixes it. I'm going to try and document this a bit. So file, implements PHP unit compatibility hack provided by class writer. This ensures we can run our PHP unit tests against 8.9 and 9 and more. Let's see. Class writer. Let's copy the reference. C. There we go. All right. So see that. Let's run the entire shebang. Does that test? Great. And something else. So see how that goes. Well, that's kind of annoying that this isn't throwing an error on there, but it's throwing an error in our PHP unit test. Oh well, I guess as long as it gets our PHP unit running, that's good news. So I'm going to add PHP unit hack for tests. All right, so it passes now. Before that was failing. Let's push this. So now we can hopefully have a green build on Drupal 9 because it passed locally. This got canceled, so we don't know. Not a wiki. We want to get to the actions. Thanks for hanging out with this. It's it definitely makes this more for myself too, because I'm sure as some of you have seen, it's tedious. So that's one reason I'm doing the live streams as well, because it makes it a little bit more fun, and hopefully some people learn some tricks, and also I get some help as well. So let's see. Why did this fail? Oh, hey, that's cool. We got test service mapping, Drupal integration test. Okay, that's good news. Well, not good news. I mean, we had a test failure, but it's great. So failed asserting at actual size 1 matches expected size 3. For the test service mapping, so test service mapping, yeah, if it fails with more fails, that's a good thing. So now we're at the point where I expect 3 errors, but we only got 1 because we don't have entity manager again. Or rather, we don't have. That's weird. It only says 1. Oh, because the entity manager just doesn't exist. So this is code that should run on. There should be a Drupal 9. So I wonder if can you PHP unit test method groups, or rather, PHP unit test method require. Writing tests. Let's type require. Skipping tests using at requires. Oh, great. So you can write that. So I'm going to say, at requires Drupal 8. And we would have a version of it which says at requires Drupal 9. So 8. And I'm assuming in here we get 1 error, and the error is entity manager service doesn't exist. So let's run it and see. The only problem is that I don't have anything that can read these requires yet. That's something that needs to be figured out in the issue. So where did I write that down? So inside the annotations. Oh, well, that's silly. Like, technically this should error because this service doesn't exist, but whatever. We're gonna say we're gonna add it. That's something that can be fixed another time to do. The actual error should be the fact entity.manager does not exist, but I can live with that. Okay, so I guess the next step is to figure out this trait is added in here. Check requirements. So I guess let's do that. Let's tie this into so it supposedly overrides test case check requirements. So let's see override check requirements. Analyzer test case source. Oh, it's a private method. Oh, wait. This name, this get class. is it intended to be private and then calls all the overridden ones like dynamically? Thanks for joining. I know it's late for the Europeans, but I appreciate you coming in and hanging out and hope you enjoyed it. I know I'm going to be wrapping up in about 12 minutes or so at the top of the hour. This is some good progress that's being made. I don't know what is going on here, but I'm going to override this here and we'll see if it gets called. If you notice me writing stop equals null a lot, it's just when you want to drop a breakpoint, it has to be on code. So that's kind of like my way of just creating lines that I can drop breakpoints on. All right, so let's run that test again, but we're going to xdebug it and see if this gets caught. If not, we will do it further down the test case. And I just realized that this is going to load the test case in random places when it's loaded. To do so, before I get too far on this, we're going to put it into the source directory, and okay, that passed. So that didn't get called. Real quick, I want to clean up a few things because I don't want to have to accidentally commit one of these test cases, so we'll delete that. And we'll delete that. I changed it to go into fix PHP unit mangled compatibility mangled mutated class. We'll say that. We'll put it nicer. So it's in source test case.php, and we want to ignore the result cache. Okay, so let's go into here, into test case, check requirements. Let's try. So I want to see if there's a way that we can get our own in here more easily, because I don't understand how Drupal core is using it then, because it's being added into the test. It's like, how if it's private? Like, how does this work if it's a private class? Yeah, so it's xdebug. And see if we can get this hit. But it looks like this entirely replaces that method, though. PHP unit custom requires annotation. Looks like I've been down this way before. Let's see. So this is the same thing, but it's a private method. So I guess what we'll do is, instead of trying to be too fancy with it, where did I put that code that says is D9? So we'll have to put this into the actually, you know what? The tests are a complete mess anyways in terms of helpers. So what we'll do is in here. So let's say, if version compare would it be -1 if the first is lower, 0 if they're equal, and 1 if the second is lower? I can never figure that out in my head. I get it too flip-flopped. So 1 if the second is lower. So if it's lower, so if oh, I already got it added here. Great. Well, we will one. So yeah. We'll try that. Let's press play on this. Oh, that should run. You remove the annotation because that doesn't actually do anything. Why this stop? Okay, only tested on 8.x.x. Right? Let's make sure. Just want to do that again. And only on 9. All right, so since it's taken a while, I'm assuming that means it's running. And I'm going to preemptively commit this. So actually, I want to just make sure that inside of the source directory, the test case file was generated and is ignored. Okay, that test passed. So let's commit that then. So this just moved into the file. Make sure mutated test case is ignored. And fix the integration test for D8, D9. We'll push that. And we will close a bunch of these things that aren't needed anymore. We're going to refresh the PR. That's a lot. There's no way there's only 32 commits on this still. All right. And I hope we get some green tests, or at least find out some more failures. And the failures are just, again, having test check if it's Drupal 8 or Drupal 9 before doing a few things. But I think this has been pretty successful. It's gotten it a lot closer than it was before, especially with this test case fix is a huge win. I have a feeling though, once it releases in the wild, there's going to be random failures that are caused by it. I'm not excited about that, but I don't know if there's a better way to test. Oh no. Okay. That Putting it inside the source directory is not a good idea. That was a dumb idea. So we're going to change that and the git ignore. We're going to move it to the tests directory. We'll move it to the fixtures, actually. We'll move it to test and fixtures. And what does phpstan analyze again in here? Source. Okay. So move mutated test case out of source. We'll push that. And we'll see what the next test run is. All right, so that failed on 9. Yeah. Oh, I guess it just failed on whatever was the fastest to get to phpstan checks. 1 second, gotta reply to a Slack message. Oh, great, we're on PHP unit. Okay, PHP unit failed. Due to drush commands. Oh, shoot, is that it? Let's see. Drush integration test. Delete that. The drush integration test just handled the fact that running this didn't cause an error and those functions don't even exist anymore. Let's see. They did before. No. Let's see. Let's find issues. There's no commits with it. Why was this code here? Drush functions auto loading, load drush legacy can. Okay, so I guess this is an error only with drush 9 maybe. So what do we have? So composer show drush. We have drush 10.4 and this says it was for issue 64. Sorry, 65. So it was issues 65. Drush functions autoloading. Oh, way to go for me not referencing things. So yeah, so it must be drush 9. With like drush 9, it wasn't loading the legacy includes, which makes me feel like I need to still support this. But only if it's drush 9 and there's no easy can't say there's not an easy way. But let's just see what's going on in 10. So includes. There are still legacy includes that are happening here. So I just maybe need to change the files that are being checked. It's like this. Because that's okay. So I just don't know what's the best one to. How do they still have this, but not? Oh, because they probably replace it with Drush is Windows. There we go. So we'll just do that. And look, we got a little deprecated thing going on there. So we will rerun this test. Before I push it, I'm going to run the test. Hopefully it passes. No. Okay. Oh, because it says call to deprecated. Yeah. Okay. So we got one error. Yeah. One error. That's good. Should probably check the message. Just copy the error in and rerun it. It's not the right way the message is formatted. Okay, actually that is the way it's formatted because it just it starts with a period. Okay, great. Update Drush integration test. Let's push it up. And I'm going to call it that for a day. I've got to get to some client work before the day is over. Thanks again for tuning in. This was fun. I think I not think. I'll be doing this every Wednesday on Twitch and doing the development from there on out. So tuning in and everybody that joined in and was able to hang out. Hope you have a good one. Bye.